I was slicing melon in the kitchen when I heard Tam's mom say, "The upstairs suite will be right for me and Warren." Just like that. No hello. No heads up. I walked into the living room with the cutting board in my hands, and there they were, Tam and Darlene, talking like realtors giving a walkthrough. Darlene had her arm looped through Tam's, and they were both pointing around like this was a model unit they'd already put money down on. Tam looked up at me, smiled like I should be grateful, and said, "We were thinking the downstairs could be perfect for Kendra and Boone. That way it's quiet for Mom and Dad upstairs." I blinked. "We who?" She gave me this look like I was being dramatic. "Can you get some extra keys made first thing tomorrow? Family needs access." That's the word that hit me. Access. Not visit. Not stay over. Like it was already decided. Quick note. Before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. And let's continue. I set the board down slow on the table. Didn't say a word for a second. Just looked at Tam. Then I asked, calm as ever, "So what's happening with your condo? Should we add my parents to that title too, since everything's shared now?" The room went dead silent. Darlene's jaw clenched. Tam's smile twitched like it was fighting not to slide off her face. Darlene stared at me like I'd insulted her personally. Tam recovered with that soft voice she used when she was cornered, but still wanted control. "You're overthinking. Mom's just planning, and I thought you'd be proud. We're supporting family." "No," I said. "The planning is the problem, not the people. You don't plan a move into someone else's house without talking to them first. You don't hand out keys. You don't name bedrooms." Tam crossed her arms. "We're married. This is our home now." I stepped closer, voice still low. "It's our marriage. It's my home, and we're not turning it into a Kincaid compound." Tam opened her mouth to argue, but I raised one finger. "One rule," I said. "Nobody moves in. Nobody gets keys. Nobody stands in this room talking like they own it unless they hear it from me." I turned, walked past the fruit I'd just brought out, and went straight to the garage. I didn't slam a door. I didn't need to. My silence did all the talking. That night, Tam went full reset mode. She made shrimp scampi like it was our anniversary, lit a candle like that fixed anything, and kept one hand on my shoulder while calling me her steady man. She said we could compromise like adults, said I was her rock, said she just got ahead of herself and wanted to make things easier for everyone. It sounded smooth, too smooth, like she was trying to sell me a used car with new wax on it. The next morning, she came out of the bedroom in a fitted blazer, makeup done like she was headed to court instead of her clinic job. Same message, just sharper this time. "As a husband, you're obligated to support family," she said, standing by the coffee maker like a boss delivering orders. "Boone needs stability. You know that." I looked at her and said, "What about your condo? Isn't that stability too?" She turned, took a sip, and said, "My condo's complicated." Like that explained anything. Then she went right back to talking about how my townhouse was too big for just us, like square footage was a sin. 2 mornings later, I was still in my boxers brushing my teeth when the doorbell rang. 7:10, sharp. I opened the upstairs window and looked down. There they were, Darlene, Kendra, and Boone, holding 2 coffee trays and grinning like they were right on schedule. Like this was normal. I walked downstairs, opened the door halfway, and said, "Now's not a good time." Kendra tried to step forward. "We brought breakfast." "I didn't ask for it," I cut in. "This isn't a hotel lobby. You don't drop by uninvited." They backed off but slow, like it hurt to walk away. Tam didn't speak to me until that evening. She said I humiliated her by making families stand outside like strangers. Never asked why they came. Just blamed me for not clapping like a trained seal. The little test started after that. One evening, Tam slid a folded form across the table like it was junk mail. "HOA wants this signed. Just routine," she said. I unfolded it. It was an authorized occupant form. My name was typed, and below that, penciled in lightly, Warren Kincaid and Darlene Kincaid. I looked up. "Why are your parents on this?" Tam gave a tight laugh. "You're so paranoid. It's for deliveries and emergencies." "I don't sign things I don't understand," I said, pushing it back. That same week, my office line rang from a number I didn't recognize. I answered it on instinct. "Hi there, son. This is Warren. Just hoping to talk man-to-man about how we handle things going forward, family-wise." His tone was that slow, polished retiree calm, the kind meant to sound harmless. But to me, it felt like a script written to pin me into a corner. I said, "Warren, I'll talk when Tam and I are ready, not before." Then I hung up, slow and clean, and turned off my office light. After Warren's call, the pattern got real clear, real fast. I'd wake up to the doorbell at 7:20, sometimes earlier, and there'd be Boone in swim trunks with Kendra smiling like they had an open invitation. "Boone just wants to use the pool," she'd say, like that made it fine to show up at my door on a school day. Darlene came by twice that week too, always with a box in her arms and a line about needing a strong back for just 5 minutes. It wasn't random. It was pressure, dressed up polite. I kept my door shut. Tam didn't. Twice I came home and found Kendra inside, sitting on the couch like it was her appointment slot. Boone had the TV remote. Nobody looked surprised to see me. I didn't yell. I didn't even ask how they got in. I walked back out, sat in my car, and called Kala. Kala's not dramatic, but she's sharp. She works PR for big events, brands, fundraisers, political galas. She said what I was dealing with wasn't confusion. It was soft colonization. Her words. They're not waiting for your consent. They're taking your silence as permission. So start keeping track. Names, dates, how long they stayed, what they said. Keep it boring and tight. She was right. So I made a file on my laptop. Just notes. No venting, no emotions. Just who came, when, and what for. That's when I walked down to the community office and asked to speak with the manager. That's how I met Milo Serrano. Milo was my age, maybe a few years younger. Ex-military posture, quiet voice. I asked what the official guest policies were and if anyone had complained about traffic at my address. He didn't flinch. Yes, he said. There's been activity. Visitors arguing with gate staff. Someone asked for a spare key, and one neighbor logged a concern about household conflict. I said, "Is that documented?" He nodded. Every incident that involves staff or security is logged. I can send summaries and any video clips we have, but you'll need to file the request in writing as titled owner. So I did, right there in blue pen, calm as you please. Milo gave me his direct email. That night, I watched the footage in my upstairs office. There was Darlene waving her arms at security like she paid dues here. Kendra pointing at my door like it was hers. And Tam. In one of the clips, she was just standing off to the side, arms folded, letting it happen. When I brought it up, Tam flipped the blame. "You're spying on my family? You trust them so little you need footage?" I said, "The only key I'm interested in right now is the one that locks my door." She stared at me like I'd hit her. Then she whispered, "I don't feel safe with you anymore." I opened the drawer, pulled out the file I'd started, and laid it on the table. I left that file sitting on the table and walked out the front door before Tam could spin it into another argument. The next real shift didn't come from her voice. It came from an envelope. Milo called me mid-morning while I was at my desk. His tone stayed neutral, but there was weight behind it. "There's a piece of mail for your unit that got left in the office. Name doesn't match your resident list." I said, "I'll come by on my lunch break." When I got there, he handed it over without a word. White envelope, cheap paper, stamped hard in red, final notice. The name read Kendra Vale. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. You don't send final notices for small balances. The kind of pressure I'd been feeling suddenly had a number behind it, even if I couldn't see it yet. I pulled out my phone, took a clean photo of the front, then handed it back. "Log this," I said. "Note that it came through your office." Milo nodded once. No questions. I walked out feeling something settle into place. This wasn't about comfort or family closeness. This was about money running out somewhere else. That night, Tam came home carrying a folder like she'd just solved our lives. She set it down in front of me and said, "I organize the bills like a good partner. You don't have to stress anymore." I opened it. Inside was a single sheet, clean print, straight to the point. Shared household management authorization. My name typed at the bottom, a blank line waiting for a signature. Tam tapped that line with her fingernail. "This just lets me handle things for us. Mail, accounts, anything that comes up." I looked at her. "Who wrote this?" "A friend from the clinic network," she said quick. She had a template. "I'll review it later," I said, closing the folder. She didn't like that. "Why are you acting like I'm a stranger?" A real husband doesn't need to double-check everything his wife does. I didn't answer right away. She shifted gears fast, softened her voice. "I'm trying to protect us. If something happens to you, I need access." "That's normal." I took the folder, stood up, and said, "I'll look at it." Instead, I scanned it and sent it to Kala. She called me back within 10 minutes and said, "I'm forwarding this to my cousin. Don't touch anything until she answers." Her cousin, Mara Chen, replied with one line. No greeting, no fluff. "Do not sign anything they put in front of you." Around the same time, Tam started laying down a new track in our texts. Little lines dropped in casual conversations. "You promised before the wedding we'd help my family." Then again, phrase different. "You said we'd make space if things got hard." I hadn't promised that. Not once. One evening, I set my phone down and looked straight at her. "Are you trying to move them in long enough to call this a shared home?" Her face tightened. "You're paranoid. You just hate my family." I stepped closer, kept my voice even. "No, I see the pattern. Names on mail, names on forms, time inside the house. Then you call it residence." She didn't answer. She just stared at me like I'd crossed a line. I picked up my keys, grabbed the folder, and walked out the door. I took the folder and my timeline file to Mara Chen's office that Tuesday morning before work. She didn't waste time with pleasantries. I handed her a stack, screenshots, logs, printed texts, and she flipped through like she'd seen all of it before. Her voice was calm, dry. "Townhouse is titled solely to you. Premarital. That's good. but they don't need to win in court to make your life miserable. I asked what to expect. 3 things, she said. Pressure, smear, paperwork. They'll try to exhaust you, ruin your image, and fake a shared household so you owe them something. She didn't blink once while saying it. Then she slid over a legal pad. Start a full timeline. No emotions. Just who, when, and how. Add sources if you weren't present. I got to work that same afternoon. Called Jory Kells, a local locksmith Kala had used once for an event client. Jory showed up in a work van with no logos and asked no questions. He changed every keyed lock that led into the house in under an hour. I added a security camera by the front entry, motion-triggered, tied to my phone. If anyone wanted to play games, I wanted footage. Not just opinions. Tam came home around 6 and lost it the second she tried her old key. A minute later, I heard the garage door rumble. She still had a remote, but the door from the garage into the house didn't turn for her either. She started pounding on it. I opened it just enough to see her face twisted. What is this? You're locking me out now? No, I said. I'm locking everyone else out. You're still free to come get your things. But you're staying at your condo starting now. She stared at me, stunned. I didn't flinch. If you want anything, you book a pickup through Milo. 1 hour. With security present, Tam backed up a step like I'd struck her. You're humiliating me. This isn't punishment. It's protection. And it's non-negotiable. That night, Mara had me send the whole thing in writing, clean and dated. No visitors, no uninvited entries, no family help. All pickups by appointment only. No exceptions. Next morning, Tam replied by text. If you're insisting on keeping people out, then you owe them a soft landing. She didn't call it blackmail. She called it fairness. I showed Mara the message. She said, time to freeze your credit. Not just your bank, your whole financial footprint. I did it that night. 3 major bureaus, full lock. 2 days later, I got an alert. Someone tried to open a store card under my name. Big electronics chain. I didn't need proof it was Tam. The timing said enough. Back at work, my boss, Benton Haskins, pulled me into his office. He talks loud, but there's loyalty behind it. You look worn out, he said. I don't need details. Just finish the review on Lakefield and I'll move the other deadlines out. It was the kindest thing anyone had done in weeks. Twyla Reese, the office gossip, sniffed the tension. You good at home? She asked one morning, fake casual. Fine, I said, not offering more. She kept fishing. I kept showing up early, eyes forward, files done, and saved every single proof for people who mattered. The locks worked. The door stayed closed. So Tam pivoted right into public sympathy. She posted a filtered selfie from the front seat of her car and tagged it, "When you have nowhere to go because love runs cold." The caption didn't name me, but it didn't have to. People who knew us knew exactly who she meant. Kala texted me the screenshots that night. Then came another, a group chat clip where Kendra said she feared for Tam and hinted I was financially abusive. Nothing direct, just enough poison to spark whispers. I hadn't raised my voice once. But lies spread fast, especially when wrapped in sad photos and hashtags. I called Mara. Don't react emotionally, she said. Post one clean reply. No insults. Just facts. Then go silent. So I posted a 4-line timeline. Uninvited visits listed. Title history, premarital in my name. Tam's own condo, still active, untouched. No one denied shelter, just denied access to property. I ended it with, documentation exists from the community office and security. That one sentence shifted the mood. It told people I wasn't guessing. I had receipts. An hour later, Tam blew up my phone. She called me cold. Said I humiliated her. Then begged me to talk. Then flipped again and said I'd regret treating her like a criminal. It all happened in 20 minutes. I wrote down everything she said, time-stamped it, and forwarded it to Mara. Then Darlene got involved. She started calling neighbors, showing up near the gate, to clear the air. Milo pulled me aside and said she had to be escorted out twice for arguing with staff. They weren't backing off. They were regrouping. Then came the message that hit different. Boone sent me a voice recording. His little voice said, I want my room back. Mommy said you promised. I sat in my car for 10 minutes after that, keys in my hand, not moving. The kid had no idea what was happening. He was just a prop. But that moment showed me how far the adults were willing to stoop. At work, everyone kept their heads down, except for Nessa Hart. She was new. Maybe 24? Just an intern. But she brought me an extra coffee most mornings and always asked, you good? In a way that didn't feel nosy. It wasn't flirtation. It was contrast. Normalcy. No manipulation. That week I told Mara, this isn't just a marital fight anymore. She said no. This is a brand campaign with legal ambitions. I stopped calling it family stress after that. I treated it like what it was. A hostile takeover with a PR mask. The next morning I updated my timeline, attached the screenshots, and added a new folder called Deflection Tactics. Then I labeled everything by date and saved it to 2 drives. Mara sat across from me and didn't sugarcoat it. What do they want most? I didn't hesitate. The townhouse. Not the marriage. Not me. Just the asset. That house was the hook, the leverage, the plan. Without it, they had nothing to build around. I called Orrin Pike the same afternoon. He was a realtor Calla had used for a corporate listing in La Mesa. No frills, no drama, just clean transactions. Orrin, I want an all-cash buyer. I don't care about top dollar. I care about fast and final. He got it. Said he'd push it live within 24 hours. I didn't tell Tam. I told Mara, my parents, and Milo. I wanted every angle covered before it showed up online. Once you list, people get bold. I needed security ready. Next stop was my bank. I booked a meeting with Blythe Garner, senior accounts manager, who I'd worked with before. I moved most of my liquid funds into a timed deposit. Short-term lockout, no easy withdrawals. Not hiding, I told her. Just not sharing. She nodded like she'd heard worse. I left with clean confirmation and a printout. No loose money. No vague shared access, just walls. Tam found out through Kendra, who must have seen the listing on her phone. I was on my lunch break when she called, shaking, furious. You're selling our future. You're destroying everything! I kept my voice flat. Our future got traded the minute your mom started measuring upstairs for curtains. That shut her up long enough for me to hang up clean. Then I got strategic. I asked Calla to leak a quiet rumor, just enough to spread, that I was hit with a private financial issue, something personal, serious, maybe medical, that the sale was to cover it, not to earn sympathy, to kill the gold rush. 48 hours later, Darlene's tone flipped from, "You owe us," to, "Is he even solvent?" She stopped asking about keys, started asking questions like a loan officer. Warren called next with his favorite performance, the calm mediator. I think we could reach a peaceful settlement if you help Tam transition smoothly. Mara drafted a single-page reply. All communication must go through counsel, and any further pressure would be logged for protective orders. Tam started testing her own angles. She sent me a text saying she'd agreed to an uncontested divorce for $38,000. She called it compensation for emotional harm. Mara laughed when she read it. That's not how this works. We don't pay people for targeting us. I told her, let the numbers sit. Then it happened. Orrin called to say we had our first serious buyer. All cash, verified, interested in a fast close. As soon as I hung up, I felt something I hadn't in weeks. Not relief, not joy, just clarity. If they couldn't tie me to the house, they couldn't drag me through it. So I printed the offer sheet and walked it straight to Mara's office. The second the rumor spread that I was broke, the tone shifted. They stopped pacing themselves. No more slow burn guilt trips. This was speed. Pressure. One last push before the door slammed shut. I was at work when Milo texted me. Just 3 words. Security incident. Call me. I stepped out of a team meeting and dialed. 3 people showed up at your front door. Darlene, Warren, and Kendra. They told the guards Tam still lived there and had a right to entry. Did anyone get in? No, Milo said, but they made a scene. I've emailed the clip to your legal contact. I opened the file in my car. The camera angle showed them crowding the walkway. Warren tried to stay calm. Kendra didn't. She kept pointing at the camera like it owed her access. And Darlene, she waved a printout like a warrant. I paused the video when I saw Tam. She was standing 10 feet back, arms folded, saying nothing. She didn't look surprised. She looked ready. That's when it hit me. She hadn't lost control of the situation. She'd handed it off. I called Mara. Stay somewhere else for a few nights, she said. Don't engage. Let them keep escalating on record. I packed a bag and drove to my parents' house. Eileen greeted me like she'd been waiting by the window. She didn't raise her voice. She just put a hand on my arm and said, "Whatever this is, we handle it clean." My dad didn't talk. He just pulled out a yellow pad and started making lists. The next day, Calla forwarded me a message from a neighbor. Darlene had apparently been knocking on doors, warning people I was dangerous and unwell. The neighbor, to her credit, didn't buy it. She typed out a full statement and asked if I needed it for court. I sent it to Mara, but the circus followed me. My parents live in a tight community with a guarded gatehouse. That didn't stop Darlene and Kendra from showing up mid-afternoon saying they needed to resolve family business. I wasn't there. But the guard filed a statement, and the community manager sent Milo the footage. It wasn't subtle. Darlene tried to push past after being told no. Kendra went full steam, threw her arm forward, made contact. The guard stumbled back and hit the ground. Police were called. Statements taken. Then Tam called me from a blocked number, voice cracking like she'd been crying for hours. "This is all a misunderstanding," she said. "They just wanted to talk to your parents." I hung up. 10 minutes later, Warren tried the mediator routine. "Let's not escalate things any further. Maybe you could help calm the situation." I didn't respond. I drove to the station with Harlan. No rescue mission. just a clean line. At the desk, I gave my name, stated I was in a pending divorce, said I did not consent to contact, and asked that all incidents be handled by procedure. The officer took it seriously, wrote everything down, assigned a report number. I glanced at the holding area and caught Darlene's eyes. For the first time, she looked scared. At the station, Tam was already halfway into her performance. She sat with her hands folded like a school counselor, telling the officer, "This all got blown out of proportion. I was just trying to keep family together. That's all I ever wanted." But she wouldn't look at the gatehouse guard sitting nearby, his wrist in a brace, still in uniform. Mara walked in like she'd been expecting this scene. Calm, briefcase in hand, no emotion. She handed the officer a folder. "My client has documented prior harassment at his residence, security logs, timestamps, video. I'd like this added to the file." The officer flipped through a few pages and nodded. "We'll attach it." Warren stepped forward next, real polite. "If we all agree not to press charges, Tam's willing to move forward with a divorce." Quickly and quietly. Mara didn't answer. She just looked at me and waited. Darlene tried her usual drama. She started crying, loud with shaking shoulders, and when Tam didn't jump in fast enough, she hissed under her breath, "Say something." "Don't just sit there." Tam glanced at her, then at me, like she was trying to decide who to impress. Her voice wavered as she said, "We were so close to being settled in his place. We almost had everything stable. His place, not our place, not the house." She said it automatically, like the truth had finally slipped out on its own. The officer stopped writing. Mara looked up from her notes. My dad, standing next to the doorway, raised his eyebrows just slightly. Nobody said a word, but the air changed. Tam knew it too. Her face froze, then dropped just for a second. Mara slid a new document across the table. "Here's what we're offering. No contact commitment. Reimbursement for the guard's medical visit and time missed. A full uncontested divorce. No payout to your client." Warren leaned in, low and firm. "Sign it." Tam didn't move right away. Her hands were shaking. She looked at me, and for the first time in all of this, she looked scared. Not of what was happening. Of being alone in it. I didn't flinch. She reached for the pen and signed. Then she looked back at me like she wanted something. Maybe comfort, maybe approval. Like I was still the safe one, the steady man, the fallback. But I wasn't hers anymore. Mara waited for the ink to dry. "My client agrees to a limited de-escalation statement only after paperwork is finalized and only under these written conditions." The officer confirmed the file, took the paperwork, and added a reference number. I nodded once and stepped back. I didn't shake hands. I didn't say goodbye. On the way out, Tam's voice followed me. "I didn't think it would end up like this." I turned slightly and said, "It ended up exactly where your pressure pushed it." Then I walked outside with my father and let the door close behind me. The townhouse sale closed just under 3 weeks later. The buyer, Quincy Madsen, didn't blink at any of it. He was a logistics guy, late 30s, divorced once, wanted walkable distance to his job in Mission Valley. He didn't ask about drama. He cared about the inspection, the appraisal, and the title report. That clean title was the only thing that mattered, and it was clean because I kept it that way. 2 days before escrow closed, Tam tried one more play. She didn't call herself. She sent Lyle Wexler, a name I hadn't heard in 5 years. Old acquaintance, not quite a friend, the kind of guy who always showed up when favors were floating around. Lyle said, "I think you should consider a small settlement. Just pay a little to make it go away and move forward." I told him peace isn't for sale, and neither am I. He didn't call back. When the wire transfer cleared, Blythe Garner sent me a short email. Funds received. Hold placed. I kept my money boring on purpose. No surprise activity, no shared accounts, nothing anyone could twist into community property. I didn't touch a cent until the court date. The hearing landed 6 weeks after the station incident. It was just enough time for the noise to die down. Tam showed up to the courthouse alone. No Darlene, no Warren. Her eyes looked dull, her makeup was uneven, and she wore the same beige blazer I'd seen her wear to 2 job interviews back when we were still pretending to build something. Mara pointed to where I should sign. Then she pointed for Tam. The clerk stamped everything, slid the file away, and said, "Final." Outside, Tam stood by the curb and said, "I never meant for it to go this far." I didn't argue. I just said, "It went exactly as far as the pressure you brought." Then I got in my car and drove off. Back at the office, Benton clapped a hand on my shoulder and said, "Time to finish that project review like nothing ever happened." That steadiness meant more than any sympathy. I went back to my desk. Twyla tried fishing for gossip. I gave her a smile and said, "Nothing exciting to report." Calla took me out to dinner a few nights later and raised her wine glass. "Square footage," she said, "brings out who people really are." I actually laughed. First real one in a while. My parents didn't call it a win. They called it a reset. Eileen said, "A home is supposed to be peace, not a battleground." Harlan added, "Next time we anchor you with wisdom, not walls." A month later, I moved into a smaller rental near the bay. No drama, no name on the buzzer but mine. I slept through the night again. I stopped checking my phone every time a car pulled up outside. Love isn't about keys or closets or who gets the master suite. Love is respect. And when someone tries to move in on your boundaries, that's not love. That's the plan. Hang on. Can I hit you with one last question before you bounce? If you've got the hype button, tap it to support this video and help it reach more people, then please subscribe and hit like because it's huge for us. And it's literally one click, and drop a comment, even if it's just good story or your take. When someone you love starts treating your home, money, and boundaries like they already own them, what line would you draw in your own life today?